No, I think it's for the reporters.
Oh. Well, I think it's usually it. Let's see if they.
Can you just stand up for now?
Sure. We'll get it out of the picture.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are in. Oh.
It's so nice.
Everybody say back up. Okay. And we're doing another test. This is a test of your emergency broadcasting system. This is only a test. Boo. Can you hear me? I do. I'm going higher though. I'm just going to. Yeah, just. I'm now an anchor. Ooh, it's 10:59. We have 1 minute to get this thing right. 1 minute. Are we good? Yes, no? This is my good side.
It is your good side.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Beverly Thompson, Public Affairs Director, and our format today is quite simple. Tom Bonfield, City Manager, is going to have remarks today along with Chief Davis. He's going to open it up and give you an overview of everything. And without further ado, Tom.
Good morning, everyone. I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for coming out this morning. I'm truly excited to welcome and reintroduce Sarah Lynn Davis to Durham as the city's new police chief. As I've already said, I believe that Chief Davis is the best fit for the city of Durham and the Durham Police Department and will be a transformational leader for the city. She brings 30 years of experience in policing, from on-the-ground policing to strategic planning, and I think all of this experience will help meet Durham's big picture needs to help solve our community's crime problems. I truly have been overwhelmed by the public support for Chief Davis. While the comments that I received as a part of the selection process from the public forums indicated that both candidates were excellent. The comments, the notes, the social media posts since the announcement indicate that many people in the public saw what I saw, that Chief Davis possesses an impressive combination of police experience with tremendous personal skills that will connect with communities in Durham. There are many challenges that Durham, similarly being faced by many other communities across North Carolina and across the country, from rising violent crime, implementing body-worn cameras, and truly developing and implementing community policing that Chief Davis will rapidly be expected to address. And while I announced Chief Davis's selection last week, she and I have had several conversations, and I can tell you that she has been keeping apprised of the happenings in Durham over the last couple of weeks and is already thinking of initiatives involving the Durham Police Department as well as the community. But I do want to say that she's not a miracle worker. This is going to take some time, but I'm confident that she's up to the task. I am confident, as I've said, that Chief Davis is ready and is the right person at the right time to move Durham's police department forward into 21st century policing, an approach aimed at not only reducing crime, but also building trust between the police department and the community. It's my pleasure to reintroduce to Durham and to the media Durham's new police chief, Sarah Lynn Davis.
Good morning. First, I'd like to thank Mayor Bill Bell and City Manager Tom Bonfield for selecting me as the next Chief of Police for the City of Durham. It is truly an honor and a privilege to serve in this capacity for for such a beautiful and promising city. As I prepare to take on this great responsibility, I will continue to work very closely with this administration, department officials, and the leadership of the Durham Police Department to begin addressing the alarming increase in violent crime over the past 12 months, and immediately begin the process of rebuilding strong and sustainable relationships with community and business leaders we serve. Also, at this time, I would like to personally thank Assistant Chief Larry Smith, who has remained committed as an outstanding and committed leader in the Durham Police Department by ensuring that the entire department continues to provide optimal response and unwavering engagement during this transition. Across the country, police agencies struggle with repairing fractured community relationships and the lack of trust. Durham is no different. However, I believe that the men and women of this department are committed to facilitating internal change so desperately needed for organizational success. As your new chief, I am ready to take on the necessary challenges to effect sweeping change and improve service delivery to the citizens of Durham who rightly deserve such service. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Davis. We're going to open it up for questions, and I'm going to ask you to please state your name so that Chief Davis can get to know you and the agency that you work with. So, okay, the first hand I saw was Chris Williams.
Chris, I want to give you congratulations on your job.
Well, the state of Durham is that this is a growing city, and unlike, and very similar to other cities across the country, we have seen an uptick in violent crime, specifically crimes related to gun violence and youth gangs. So the state of Durham is that the uptick certainly has surfaced here as well. However, I believe that with the appropriate strategies put in place, with working with federal partners and other agencies and department heads, I believe that the City of Durham Police Department will be able to address these problems effectively. It will take a collaborative effort. It will take a holistic approach. So I believe the state of Durham is one that we will get our arms around, and that we will continue to work with the community leaders here in order to impact change. Yes. Absolutely. Excuse me, you're absolutely right. Sometimes the subject itself can become so commonplace that some of the same language is used and people don't know quite what that means. To take a deeper dive, to tell you a little bit about what I can bring to the table, prevention is more important to me than response. If we can prevent crimes in the city of Durham by utilizing various types of preventive measures, not just making sure that citizens are aware of how to prevent from being crime victims, we also need to make sure that our young people understand how important it is not to be involved in violent criminal activity. Prevention from a holistic standpoint means to address our youth issues, finding alternatives for our young people so that our young people do not result to being involved in various types of criminal activity. Yes. Well, first of all, community policing has been around for many years, and for many years, as the various eras have changed, community policing, the face of it has changed as well. Today, community policing, for me and from my perspective, means that every officer, every employee of the Durham Police Department will embrace a culture of community policing. It means customer service. It means speaking. It means ensuring that the community is involved in problem solving, decision making. It means much more in the face engagement as opposed to just responding to crimes. So community policing from a holistic standpoint would mean that we would emerge ourselves in the community, not telling the community what it is that we expect of them, but for them to be able to provide feedback to the police department of what they expect from us and how they can help us. And I will be working with the community and with the leaders of this department so that we can establish those relationships for ongoing conversation about what is specific to those various types of communities, what the problems are in the different communities. You can't take a broad brush and apply community policing. You have to have various different types of strategies depending on the problems in that particular community. Somebody I hadn't heard from. Yes. Well, trust is something that is earned. And I believe the only way that we can earn the trust of the various types of communities that we serve is that we get those communities involved and that we have individuals that can communicate with the Hispanic community. It's important that during our recruitment efforts that we make sure that we identify individuals that are bilingual, individuals that can communicate and to provide educational opportunities to various non-English speaking communities. And I think it's not going to happen overnight, but I think the effort to identify liaisons in the Hispanic community that are willing to work with the police department, I believe we will be successful in establishing better relationships and better rapport. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm familiar with it. I've heard, just preliminary information about it, and I'm willing to sit down and talk about what that looks like for the City of Durham and how we can potentially look at that opportunity to establish some type of ID. Of course, we have parameters, legal parameters that we have to look at. But I'm not as familiar with that particular program, but I'd certainly be interested in having dialogue and conversation to talk about that with Hispanic leaders. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Anthony Wilson with WTVD here. Welcome to Durham.
Thank you, sir.
And I hate to be the one to ask a tough question, but we know what you're here for.
Yes.
Talk about that trust situation. You said that there is a disconnect, I'm paraphrasing you, between members of the community and some members of the police department nationwide.
Yes.
And you've done your research and there's been a situation like that. I have to ask you, how can you reassure the citizens here who may have been doing their Google searches about what happened to you in Atlanta in a situation where people were wondering whether or not you were being straightforward with the community regarding some things going on inside the Atlanta Police Department?
Well, the only thing I can do is stand on my reputation at this point. And I do believe that my reputation in the Atlanta Police Department speaks for itself. I have many references and individuals that know the struggle and who know and understand how important it is that when you're going through a challenge, when you witness an untruth, whether it's with you or whether it's with a community member or even if it's with one of your officers, it is important to maintain a level of integrity, to stand up for what is right. And that's what I stand for today. That's what I have represented myself as in my entire career, to stand up for what is right. And when you do that, you don't have to worry about anything else. I plan to establish strong relationships. I plan to be accessible. I plan to be transparent, because after all, we are not in this career field because we want to be against our communities. We are the community. Police departments are members of the community that they serve, and it's incumbent upon us to utilize the community as a force multiplier in order for us to fight crime and to make our community safer. So I hope I answered your question, but I stand on my reputation as a person of integrity and a person who you will see, and this community will see, is fully invested in making sure that we have a police department that one day will be a national model.
Follow-up question on that.
Sure.
You were fired at one point
Yes.
and reinstated.
Yes.
Can you go into a bit more detail about the circumstances that led to your being fired and reinstated?
I won't take a deep dive into it because that information is available to you. But like I said before, anytime there's an accusation, whether it's an accusation against an internal employee or an accusation even against a citizen, it happens every day. Untruths happen every day. It's incumbent upon me as a leader to fight not just for myself, but also for the other men and women in the police department who may be subjected to similar types of accusations. So for me, it's important not to harp on what happened to me in the past, but utilize that as a means of me being a strong leader to make sure that I fight for what is right. Thank you. Yes, sir. Well, one of my initial goals is to establish sort of a one-on-one type of relationship with community leaders. And it's not a one-on-one type of relationship where we're just having lunch and chatting. Very strategic types of meetings so that together we can identify problems that plague specific communities and how we can utilize the resources that various leaders in this city have in order for us to do our jobs better. In the city of Atlanta, we utilize our clergy, we utilize our business community. We have integrated cameras from the business community, cameras that the city didn't purchase, but privately owned cameras that are on the exterior of various businesses so that we can have our eyes on what's going on the streets without it being a burden to the city's budget. Those are the type of technology and sweeping changes that I spoke of as it relates to technology and the use of new technology and really the partnerships that can help us do our jobs better. Yeah, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Well, recruitment is very important, and agencies across the country are challenged with recruiting and officers leaving to go to other agencies for better pay or better working conditions or whatever. However, incentives are important too, and I mentioned in a meeting prior to this one that sometimes there's low-hanging fruit. There's incentives that you can provide to officers that don't cost a lot of money. So I would be looking at opportunities to help improve morale, whether it's with equipment needs, whether it's with looking at scheduling, how are we scheduling our officers, are they overworked, reallocation of manpower, various types of training opportunities. It's important for us to have a well-trained workforce, and also supervisory training to make sure that supervisors understand how important it is to mentor the officers that are working for them. Sometimes the relationship between the supervisor and the officer can help change a work environment as well. So I'll be looking at those types of low-hanging fruit that we could leverage in order to help keep our officers in place without having to deal with the various attrition. Of course, pay is always an issue, but that is a issue that I would have to talk with the city administration and to look at how we compare with other agencies across the country. The IACP has recently done a study. I will be examining that study, see what their recommendations are as well, because I'm pretty sure that they have probably identified some morale type of issues as well.
Chief, what's your position on the use of body cameras and the access of the video for the public as opposed to just the jury?
Well, and that varies from, jurisdiction to jurisdiction. I have to look at what the initial policies have been to, that have been developed here. However, in the city of Atlanta, we work really closely with our law department and also our Citizens Review Board so that we could come up with a policy that was one that did not jeopardize the integrity of an investigation, but at the same time offered transparency during the investigation. Sometimes we can reveal video footage, and then sometimes it may not be wise to do so, especially in very serious types of investigations. Hang on just a second. Yes, sir?
Curious about your philosophy about the extent and when the Department of Justice enforcing marijuana laws.
Well, that's the marijuana conversation. Well, the marijuana law is here, and that issue has come up in several different venues that I've been a member of, and it's a little different in Atlanta. When we have marijuana laws that are on the book, we enforce those marijuana laws in the city of Atlanta. We don't ask our officers to deviate from what is in city ordinance. If the city ordinance needs to be changed, then we look at talking to those legislators to make the necessary changes. But we don't put our officers in precarious situations so that they can use that level of discretion whether to charge a person with the possession of marijuana or not. So I think that's going to be a legislative issue that we would have to take a look at. Thank you. Yes? That's a good question. Well, first of all, I would like to embrace the City of Durham Police Department as I did in the Atlanta Police Department. I loved my department, and as a leader here, I know that with hard work, you tend to love anything that you work on and that you have a passion about. And I feel that my legacy here should be one of inclusion, one of change for positive direction, one of strong, committed relationships with the community that we serve. I would like for every Durham police officer to be well received in any community forum that they enter. It should not be a hostile environment. We should have a force that is full of individuals that are in this line of work, not just for the pay, but also because they enjoy serving their community. That's what I would like my legacy to be.
Chief, you worked up your way up through the ranks. You were a beat cop.
Yes.
Yourself being visible on the street more here in Durham perhaps than you were in Atlanta or any other place?
Well, I was very visible in Atlanta, but I see myself being more visible here. I see the need to be visible here. I see myself being very accessible. I've already, as a matter of fact, I attended a local church yesterday because I wanted to just feel the community and feel connected to an environment that I will one day be a part of. And I have taken time on my own to drive the streets of Durham without an escort in some of those areas that I've heard about, only so that I could see for myself as a citizen what the citizens are experiencing. So I see myself as a very visible and a very accessible individual. Yes.
Talking about social media, obviously it's gained a lot of momentum here. Some people I knew have noticed that originally you had the handle, I think it was one Diva Cop, but it's now been changed to one Security Cop.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about just that initial Twitter handle and some of the connotations it might have had and why you decided to change it.
Sure. One Diva Cop is a handle that I chose for myself because many of my role models in my culture are considered divas. And a diva to me is a strong, confident woman. It is my Nancy Pelosi's, it's my Oprah Winfrey's, it's my Barbara Jordan's. It's those women that portray an image of strength, portray an image of certainty and leadership. And I understand that when I move to another culture in an environment where people may not understand, it's a necessity, and I'm okay with that. So the folks in Atlanta can continue to call me a diva cop, which they did, and the folks here can refer to my initials, which I think would be perfectly fine. I will continue to use my Twitter handle because I continue to enjoy communicating through Twitter, but I don't want to disrespect anyone, or I don't want people to misunderstand who I am. That's why I think it's really important for us to understand that cultural differences are so important for us to get over and to understand why one word or one term might mean one thing to one person and it means something else to someone else. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, Mama Kirk, I'm from the club. Atlanta
Yes.
was the most violent crime. We closely work with the administration and cleaning up the club. My question is, your word being your bond holistic, will you be willing to work with us in conflict resolution as you work with us in Atlanta, Georgia, the nation?
I absolutely.
Have a dialogue with you without anyone running interference in the city, so that you can see and examine what we have did in Atlanta and all over the country.
Yes, as you know, I'm very familiar with the Bluff, a very distressed community over the years, very drug-ridden environment. However, we have done some great work with the community leaders in that particular community. There are communities like the Bluff here in Durham, and it takes not just the community leaders and the police leadership, it also takes other leadership in city government. It takes grant writers, individuals who are willing to assist in providing funding to improve those particular neighborhoods. And your environment is important to the fight against crime, because crime-rich environments such as the Bluff will continue to be infested with crime unless we deal with the environmental issues. So to answer your question, sir, I am absolutely willing and certainly capable of working with you and other community members to address those types of communities. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Could you introduce yourself, please? I'm sorry, could you give us your name and?
Oh, Chris Tiffany. Undocumented use of force against pedestrians and undocumented and disappeared civilian complaints prevent other problems from being fixed. What do you do to fix those two fundamental problems?
Anything undocumented is an issue, especially an encounter with a police officer. That's why body cameras are important. That's why checks and balances are important. That's why policies and procedures and accreditation is ultimately the foundation from which the department operates. And to ensure that various types of infractions and civil rights violations are not committed, we have to put those types of checks and balances in place through supervision, through oversight, measures, and constant monitoring. So I am certainly willing to take a look at what that type of oversight looks like now, and putting whatever checks and balances in place that are needed in order for us to take a look at ourselves on a regular basis to make sure that questionable activity is not being committed and that we are following up on complaints, especially legitimate complaints where persons' rights have been violated, and that we investigate those complaints with deliberate speed to ensure that that type of activity is not a part of who we are. Thank you.
We have time for one more question, and we're going to wrap it up after that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Could you talk a little bit about what steps
Well, there's different ways that you can track bias-based profiling. And the manner in which I'm most familiar is through the CAD system, through the reporting system. And that is to identify what type of stop is being made and what is the demographic of the individual that's being stopped in the geographical location, of course. So when there are patterns, when you're scrubbing that data and you identify patterns and from regular checks and balances and measures, just like I spoke about, then you're able to identify when there are disparate numbers of stops in certain areas, disparate demographics of individuals, whether it's of the gay community, the Hispanic community, or even the elderly community. So it's important for us to be able to put checks and balances in place as part of what we have to do in order to maintain our accreditation. But the issue is to make sure that we are inspecting what we expect. And that's a saying that we use, but it's important for us to do that so that our officers don't think that every day when they come to work, no one's paying attention. We will be inspecting what we expect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for coming today. Several of you have all asked for opportunities for, an opportunity for a one-on-one interview with Chief Davis. We have the 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock time slot open. If you are still interested in a one-on-one that will last about 10 minutes each, please call my office today to let me know, okay? And we will be ready for you. And just come up to the second floor of City Hall and we'll escort you to the location. Okay? Thank you all for coming today. We really appreciate it.